This video has been brought to you by the online learning community Skillshare. Stay tuned to the end of the video to find out how you can get yourself a 2-month free trial. Okay, so a few years back, I made a review for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and in it, I listed off some ideal features I wanted to see in the next Pokemon game. So, let's play back my old review and see how many features Game Freak delivered on with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, we're on a home console now, they'll have bound to have delivered on a few. A true 3D world to explore with 360-degree camera control. No. A better story to rival other JRPGs. Nope. More fun ways of training a Pokemon stats. Not really. A more challenging campaign for series veterans. Definitely not. A more fully realised version of the Pokefinder, a more extensive GTS, a sped up and all-round snappier battle system. I'm running out of ways to say no. Alright, okay, perhaps this is unfair of me. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are indeed the latest iterations of the core Pokemon RPG series, but I describe these games as more of a semi-spin-off. What we have here is a more streamlined and approachable take on the Pokemon formula, no doubt designed to entice newer players to go on a virtual trip through Kanto for the first time. But is that a trip worth taking? Well, not for 100 bloody quid, it's not. There we go, that's slightly less insulting. Let's proceed, shall we? Number 1.
Back to formula.
So, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are remakes of the original Game Boy titles released way back in the 90s, of which were already remade in the noughties. Yo dog, I heard you like remakes, so we remaked your remake. And the whole structure of the game remains largely untouched. You start the game with your partner Pokemon, collect 8 gym badges, kick Team Rocket's ass, fuck up the Elite Four, and build a team of 6 slaves, team members along the way. Team members. But regarding the game's structure, I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity by A, not including many of the additional locations in the GBA remakes like the Sevi Islands, and B, by not really expanding the story and characters very much. I mean, they have a little. Some extra bits of dialogue have been added, and then there's a fancy pre-rendered cutscene or two, but it's a massive afterthought. I mean, how cool would it have been if they'd finally introduced voice acting to the series, or even anime cutscenes akin to Pokemon Origins? Remember people, this is a full RRP home console release, so having just this, I can't be the only one who finds that a little lacking. But even without including those things, it would have been nice if, let's say the game's dialogue was updated to be a bit wittier, or maybe the gym leaders could have played a larger role, or if they hadn't completely nerfed your rival and turned him into a right prissy little Puritan. Meet your friendly rival? Piss off! Bloody hell, why are Game Freak so insistent now on making your rival so inoffensive? They should be a dick, like Blue and Silver were, cause then it feels so much better when we kick their asses. Also, with how ruthless characters like Blue were back in the day, you bought how they were able to beat all those gym leaders and Elite Four members before you. This kid doesn't look like he could defeat a Magikarp, and you're telling me that he beat trainers like Giovanni and Lance? No. In fact, cause of this, I actually thought that the trainer you face after the Elite Four wouldn't be your rival. Cause Professor Oak shows up after you beat Lance, and I was like, oh shit, I get to face Professor Oak? But no, they just play it off for a cheap laugh. I mean, what a great twist that would have been. Because it was actually originally planned that you would face Oak in the original Red and Blue games. You can even fight him using a Game Shark code. So having that Oak fight incorporated into this remake would have been such a cool twist. But nope, you fight your stupid rival again. Someone you've already beaten like 6 times prior, so having him as the final boss just seems a bit underwhelming. Admittedly, you beat Blue several times before too, but still, it's dumb. An update here would have been nice to see. Anyway, as you'd expect, the story is just there, but at the very least it doesn't intrude on the gameplay too much like Sun and Moon's plot did. Now, the only other element related to the plot regards your starter Pokemon, that being either Pikachu or Eevee, depending on which version of the game you picked up. Now, much like Pokemon and me, Pikachu and Eevee can be petted and fed treats, which is a cute little feature. I mean, I played the Eevee edition, and she was just gosh darn adorable.
Pikachu! Out of the way, you! Aww.
Also, HMs thankfully do not return, as now Pikachu and Eevee perform these actions themselves, which makes exploring Kanto far more streamlined than before. Sun and Moon were the first games to ditch HMs, and it's so good that they're now officially dead.
Good riddance.
Though I do have some slight nitpicks with this new secret ability system. Firstly, and I know this has always been the case, but bushes you cut always end up coming back after you leave an area, so you're forced to cut them down again if you want to get past. Just seems like a waste of time if you ask me. Why not have them permanently gone? Why respawn them at all? Then there's the fly mechanic, which unfortunately is buried under a few too many options. Every time you want to fly, you gotta open your bag, choose to play with your partner, wait for them to stop fucking around for a few seconds, select the fly option, and then you can finally get going. Considering how much you'll be flying in the post-game, this gets a bit tedious. Speaking of things being buried under too many menus, the same applies for Pokemon you can ride. Now this is admittedly a cool feature, being able to gallop across the map on my Arcanine or take to the skies on my Aerodactyl is really neat. But if you want to do that, you gotta open up the menu, open up the party screen, select the Pokemon, hit the plus button, come out of the menu, then you can finally ride. But then you gotta eventually dismount too, and no, there is no dismount hotkey. So you gotta go into the menu again, select your Pokemon, choose the dismount option. Look, just have the plus button here as the shortcut to dismount and mount your Pokemon, and then maybe have the minus button as a shortcut to fly. Guys, the select function is literally hotkeyed to A, L3, R3, and all 4 shoulder buttons. Yes, 7 different buttons do the same damn thing. So why not make use of all these buttons as handy shortcuts? Oh, no, wait, you can't do that, no, because then no one would buy your overpriced hunk of plastic, of which literally has 1 button. Oh, and hopping in and out of menus all the time isn't helped by the lack of touchscreen functionality. You can pet your Pokemon this way, but you can't select moves in battle using the touchscreen, you can't swap around party members, and the menu system while catching Pokemon is a bit cumbersome too. Every time you want to change your ball or throw a berry, it's into a whole other menu where you gotta scroll through all your items to get to the one you want. And look, this doesn't take too long. But considering how many Pokemon you'll be catching in this game, it gets tedious. Let's Go should have just lifted the ball and berry mechanic from Pokemon Go. It'd have resulted in a far more seamless experience. The game's menu systems as a whole are a bit tiring, which is weird actually, as the newly designed Pokemon box is much better. Gone is all that horrifically mundane and manual sorting in the old games. Now you can sort by dex number with a click of a button. Oh, and you can access your box now from anywhere, not just Pokemon centers. This is so much better, and it's a shame this streamlined and intuitive quality wasn't applied to all the game's menus. Anyway, let's move on and finally get around to making these cute little animals fight each other. Number 2. Cause Pokemon apparently needed dumbing down. So let's talk about battling, as Let's Go has stripped back a couple of notable features from previous games. First off, Pokemon no longer have abilities, which does unfortunately remove a big element of strategy when battling. But on the other hand, it's kinda nice actually, as without the sturdy ability, Pokemon like Graveler can no longer waste your bloody time by holding on to 1 HP as you're trying to one-hit KO them. Don't miss you at all. Also gone are hold items, and whilst this removes yet another fun element of battling, it does make your adventure a little more streamlined, mostly because amulet coins and lucky eggs don't exist anymore. Of which I always faffed around with in the past, equipping and unequipping them so I can max out experience and money. And you had to do this every time you wanted to change your party leader. Yeah, you can't do that anymore, and I'm pretty content with that. But because of these stripped back features, I seriously doubt any kind of competitive scene is going to come out of Pokemon Let's Go. So that leaves you with the AI you'll mostly be facing. So, do they offer up a fun, rewarding challenge to test your skills as a Pokemon trainer? Fuck no. Yeah, as you'd expect in an entry designed to be more approachable to newcomers, Pokemon Let's Go is easy. Or at the very least, I found it easy. Remember, this is my review of the game, I'm just simply relaying my experience. I've seen many people saying they found a decent challenge here, but that was definitely not the case for me. Now, when you talk about RPGs being too easy, what's the underlying cause? Why is it too easy? Well, it's simple. You're overleveled. And why was I constantly overleveled in Let's Go? Well, it's because of the new way you gain experience. Number 3. To catch them is my real test. To train them, I have to catch more? Now, in Pokemon games of the past, you gained experience through battling. And that's still true, but the experience gain here doesn't remotely compare to what you get when catching Pokemon. Yeah, somehow you throwing a ball at an unrelated Pokemon will cause all 6 Pokemon currently in your belt to get stronger. Don't question it, guys. Now, let me just brief you first on the new catching mechanic, as you'll notice that it's been altered drastically from previous games. Mostly for the better. In games of old, you had to battle wild Pokemon, get their health as low as possible, and then throw ball after ball in hopes that you'll get a successful capture. And I actually didn't like this system, because it meant you always had to keep a Pokemon on your team with Force Swipe and a status infliction move handy, and constantly mashing the A button to keep throwing ball after ball got pretty tedious, especially when catching legendaries. Oh, and don't get me started on how you caught the legendary dogs, ugh. But now, Pokemon appear on the Overworld, a feature I've been wanting for a long time by the way, and it's so cool to finally see it implemented. And when you start an encounter, you enter a catching minigame akin to Pokemon Go, and by using the accelerometer on your Joy-Con controller, you can simulate a throwing motion. This works. Mostly, kind of. Your mileage may vary. For me, it works fine when the Pokemon is standing still, but the moment they start floating here, there, and fucking everywhere, good luck. Often I'd aim right and the ball would throw to the left, sometimes I'd throw completely straight and the ball would veer off wildly to the right. It's messy. So in these cases, I found it better to play the game in handheld mode, as then you can aim by tilting the console and push A when you're ready to throw. This works a lot better, but it's annoying you have to sacrifice playing on your TV to get a decent control setup. But there is another aspect of this catching system I don't like. You see, for the higher leveled Pokemon in the game, the catch rate can be insanely difficult. You can sometimes throw up to 5 excellent throws in a row with Ultra Balls, and they can still break free. Now, there are raspberries to help out, but they're buried under those annoying menus I mentioned earlier, so you often won't be asked to use them. Oh, and you can't buy them as well, so yeah, you likely won't have many to use anyway. If I throw 3 excellent Ultra Ball throws in a row, that should guarantee a catch. Now, I wouldn't mind this low catch rate too much, but the problem is that Pokemon in this game can flee, which is really annoying if you're looking for a rare Pokemon or if you're on a big combo catch chain, as potentially hours of work could go down the drain. Now, I was talking before about the experience gain from captures, as this is one of 4 perks you'll get by chaining your catches. Yeah, by capturing the same Pokemon over and over again, you'll get some pretty notable rewards. A, your odds of catching a shiny Pokemon increases. 2, the IVs of your catches will increase the more Pokemon you lob a Pokeball at. D, you'll receive candy you can use to power up your Pokemon. And eggplant emoji, yes, you'll gain experience. And if you choose to combo chain a few different species of Pokemon for your team, you'll begin to notice how vastly overleveled this makes you. But here's the real kicker, you can add mega insult to injury by pumping your Pokemon full of the candy you receive from chaining. Number 4.
Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy.
Now, the new candy mechanic in Let's Go, I've seen many praise, but for me, it's easily the worst part of this game. You see, in previous outings, you had something called EVs, or effort values, and each stat of your Pokemon had one. Each Pokemon could have a maximum of 510 EVs applied to them, with a maximum of 255 available in each stat, and it was up to you how you'd spread those 510 EV points. Now, this system was utter shite, because it meant you had to battle the same kind of Pokemon over and over again to max out each stat's EVs. That or do that stupid soccer ball minigame over and over again. Thankfully you don't have to do that anymore, but what Let's Go introduces as an alternative is just as bad, if not worse. You see, with EVs, you weren't raising your Pokemon stats, more the future potential of those stats. In Let's Go, candies just outright raise them, and each stat, yes, each stat can be raised by a further 200 points. For reference, 200 is roughly the attack stat of a level 50 Machamp. So if, like me, you want to get a strong Pokemon for your team right away, you can potentially and very easily break your game. Pump a relatively modest amount of attack candy into a new catch, and you'll soon proceed to annihilate every trainer in Kanto. I personally one-hit KO'd about 90% of gym leader Pokemon, and sometimes I'd knock them all out this way, where the only time I ever took damage was when a priority move like Quick Attack was used. This candy system is broken beyond belief and it should not have been implemented, or at the very least it should have been locked to the post-game so the main campaign could present somewhat of a challenge. Now, I understand that these new Let's Go games are designed to be more accessible to newcomers, but what you gotta understand is that there's a difference between a game that's accessible and a game that's insultingly easy. They're not the same thing. Pokemon Red and Blue, for example, were accessible, and whilst not the most difficult games, do offer up a decent challenge every now and then. But here, there's not a single battle not in the post-game that I literally couldn't have done blindfolded. I just had my Doug trio out front with Earthquake and Rock Slide for the flying types. I switched off battle animations, put the battle mode on set to save time, and then what proceeded was a complete sodomization of the A button. And here's something else, there's two other ways I could have made the game even easier. Firstly, there's your starter Pokemon, which through the use of special move tutors can learn some incredibly overpowered moves. And secondly, if you shake the second Joy-Con, you can have a friend join you in battle, so all battles in the game you can actually turn into 2-on-1 slaughters. I can safely say that this is the easiest RPG I've played in my life, and this new candy system is mostly to blame. The candy mechanic is also poorly implemented as fuck. Let's say you have a few hundred candy you want to pump into your Pokemon. You would think you could give them all at once, but no. You have to give them to your Pokemon one at a time, which means if you want to max out one Pokemon stats, you need to feed candy to them 200 times. And that's if you go down the route of using the harder to obtain species specific candy. Because if you use the regular stat specific candy, then you gotta do that for each of the 6 stats. So, worst case scenario, you've gotta feed candy to each individual Pokemon 1,200 times! This is downright the shittiest designed RPG mechanic I've seen in my life. What did critics rate this game? Spoiler alert, I'm not going to be as generous. Number 5. Gotta catch 'em all. Hundreds of times each. Okay, let's go back to the combo chaining as one of the other pros you get from it I wanted to expand upon. Getting Pokemon with better IVs. Now if you watched my Sun and Moon review, you'll know how much I hated the old way of doing this. Getting a Pokemon with the right nature, ability and IV spread was an unbearably laborious task, and for me, it was the biggest issue plaguing modern day Pokemon games. However, now things are a bit better, and for me, this is the best thing about this game. First off, breeding does not exist in Let's Go. Thank fuck. As such, there's no more running back and forth outside a daycare, nor is there that tedious task of finding a Pokemon with the right egg move in the right egg group. Do not miss that one bit. Secondly, cause abilities don't exist anymore, you don't need to worry about the RNG associated with getting the right one of those. Thirdly, whilst you can't change the nature of a Pokemon you've caught, you can control what nature your Pokemon will have by visiting a fortune teller in Celadon City. Pay her 10,000 Pokédollars and all Pokemon you capture from then on will have a nature of your choosing. Thank God for you, lady. And lastly, even if you choose to train a Pokemon with bad IVs, you can rest knowing that one day it could have perfect ones, as hyper training returns. And it's welcomed. But to end my positive streak, it's far from ideal. You see, there's two problems with hyper training. First off, you need bottle caps to pay for the service. Now you can easily pick one up every day in the postgame by fighting a trainer in Vermilion City, but that's only the regular kind of bottle cap, so you'll have to fight this trainer 6 days in a row if you want one perfect IV Pokemon. The only other way to get caps is to head over to the game corner. There's 6 hidden items in here, with bottle caps being a rare spawn. So what you gotta do is, you gotta save your game, pick up the 6 hidden items, and in the incredibly likely situation where you don't find a cap, you gotta reset your game, open your save file, and try again. This could take forever and is not fun in the slightest. Like, why not offer bottle caps for winning a match against a friend? Or maybe Game Freak could have offered some fun and unique challenges, like beat the Elite Four without using items and you'll win a gold bottle cap. Or maybe they could have taken advantage of the gambling being removed and given players some fun mini games in the game corner of play, with bottle caps as prizes. Or maybe a special vendor could just outright sell the caps, but at a costly premium. But nope, Game Freak decided that this method of resetting your game every 2 seconds was more fun. Why does Game Freak make everything such a grind? Oh, and speaking of grinding, behold the second problem with hyper training. Only level 100 Pokemon can do it. So, you're forced to train Pokemon to level 100. Doesn't sound so bad, but remember when I said that the best way to gain experience in this game is not to battle Pokemon, but to catch them? Well, it's the highest leveled Pokemon that net the most experience. So, yep, get used to catching a fuck ton of Chansey. Catch Chansey after Chansey after Chansey after Chansey after Chansey after Chansey. And if you want to truly 100% this game, you're going to need to catch literally hundreds of them. Cause in the post-game, new Master Trainers will then populate Kanto. 153 of them, and each one has one of the 153 available Pokemon in the game as their partner. But here's the catch, you gotta face them with the same Pokemon, and considering their high levels, it means you'll have to train up every single Pokemon in the game, including all the unevolved versions. So stock up on the first 6 Pokemon in the dex, head back to Cerulean Cave, and it's yet more Chansey after Chansey after Chansey. You get the point. And believe it or not, I've seen many people online saying they found this experience grinding method fun. I mean, okay, there is some slight excitement from seeing you getting excellent on the first throw and being rewarded with mountains of experience, but you'll end up finding this experience grinding method so effective, you won't even ever get to properly use the Pokemon you're training up. Take this shiny Beedrill I caught, for example. I go to Cerulean Cave to train it up via the Chansey method, but after doing this for like half an hour, I was like, man, I want to actually battle with this damn thing. So I took Beedrill to fight that bottle cap trainer in Vermilion. I defeated a Mr. Mime about 20 levels higher than me. And behold, the gargantuan amount of experience Beedrill received for taking out such a powerful foe. For comparison, here's the experience you get from catching one Chansey. They've killed the battle system. You'll find that in the post-game, there's no point in fighting anyone. True, you get money, but while catching Chansey, you can get even that too, as golden berries will constantly spawn, which you can sell for a decent amount of cash. The experience gained from battle is just so minuscule, and because there's nothing like the battle tree or the awesome battle frontier from Emerald, there's no tough opponents to face with your powered up Pokemon anyway. There's the online mode, but that's been nerfed to hell. The only way to battle with someone online is to put in 3 Pikachus as a code and hope you get lucky in finding a decent opponent. There's no ranking system, there's no friend list, nothing. And look, there's an easy way Game Freak could have jump-started the battle system in the post-game. Like, maybe you unlock a special lucky egg once you beat the Elite Four, which increases experience gained for all Pokemon involved in battle. And every time you beat the Elite Four and gym leaders, they could get stronger every time. So eventually you'd be able to fight level 100 Pokemon for both great experience gain and a great challenge. But you could also choose to fight them at different level caps too, so Pokemon you've just caught could be battled with right away. But nope, that would be fun, and Game Freak doesn't want you having any of that. So go back to Cerulean Cave and catch it more bloody chancy. I mean, if Game Freak aren't going to make this more entertaining, then could someone at the very least mod the nice, excellent and great messages you get when catching Pokemon? It's an idea I had when drunk once.
Nice.
Great!
Excellent.
That might make me slightly more invested. Anyway, let's conclude. Pokemon Let's Go, I guess I enjoyed playing, but the moment I look at these games objectively, they're really disappointing. True, ride Pokemon are kinda cool, being able to see Pokemon on the overworld makes Kanto feel more alive. Things like breeding being removed and the Celadon Fortune Tower are very nice to see, and the new catching mechanic is fun in moderation, but most battles in the game are way too easy, provided you know what you're doing and you don't rush through the game. The increased emphasis on catching Pokemon and gain experience feels completely wrong and all but kills the point of battling. The new candy system is atrociously monotonous and equally broken. The online modes are practically non-existent. 20-year-old consoles could have given us these graphics. The post-game feels like a dead end with nothing to do but cash chances. And then Nintendo tries to rip you off further by charging you full RRP for the experience, along with a £50 accessory that you will have to buy if you wish to obtain a Mew. Cause yeah, there's no other way to get one in the game. I'm gonna get downvoted to hell. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee gets a 5. If you like this game, I understand. It's a charming, inoffensive experience, but for me, Let's Go just comes across as an easy cash grab, a ploy to sell Nintendo Switches now before the next true Pokemon games come out. And I fell hook, line and sinker. It's a good console though. It's just not a fulfilling at all RPG experience, cause RPGs should have the following: an engaging and challenging battle system, a unique and aesthetically pleasing art style, a great story with memorable characters, and leveling and powering up your team members should be pure fun and highly addictive. Pokemon Let's Go fails miserably on all 4 of those. At surface value, the game is fine, but the moment you start looking under the hood and really spend some time with the game's more in-depth mechanics, you'll realise how broken and monotonous it is. Now, if Let's Go was cheaper, like maybe a £15 game on the App Store, I'd actually probably recommend it. But for the price it's selling at and the console it's on, hell no. Remember, Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise on the planet. Yes, this franchise makes more money than even Star Wars. They could do better than this. I mean, look, if those 4 points on what I think a good RPG should have don't bother you when playing a Pokemon game, by all means fork over full RRP to Nintendo. For the rest of you, go play a far more fulfilling RPG like Persona 5 and hold out on Pokemon until Gen 8 arrives. That's my advice. I'll see you guys next time, but before you go, why not give a little love to today's incredible sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for the world's creators with classes in design, business, film production, music, you name it. And how many classes do they have? Oh, over 25,000? What? Me personally, I've been watching tutorials on Adobe After Effects, as VFX work is something I'd love to get better at, but I guarantee that Skillshare will have something that's right for you. And it's New Year resolution time, so why not take that as an opportunity to learn yourself a new skill? And Skillshare's the place to do that, with premium membership giving you unlimited access to those 25,000 classes for less than $10 a month.
Shut up and take my money!
Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career, Skillshare is the place to keep you learning and thriving in 2019. Join more than 7 million creators learning with the site, and for the first 500 of you to use the link in the description, you'll nab yourself a 2-month free trial. Thanks for watching guys, and thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring me. I'll see you in the next one.